It is 6:30 on your Thursday morning, and ooh, look at that. We're starting to see some fog move in as we bring you this live look over downtown Dallas. Greg's going to have an update on the forecast and where you may have low visibility coming up.
Yeah, Dia Wall here. I'm Matt Howerton. We've been following some breaking news out of Tarrant County all morning. We want to start with that. Right now, we have a cross-county chase that has ended there in Tarrant County. That's where we find Chris Sadeghi this morning. Chris, we understand that 5 suspects have been taken into custody.
Yes, Matt, and we have moved over to the other side here since we talked to you last, and something I've noticed, there's some damage to the Fort Worth police vehicle in front of the suspect's car, which is sitting on its side, so that certainly would indicate that there was a collision of some kind as they were trying to end this chase that started in Ellis County. We know that at some point they tried to use spike strips, and also at some point during this chase that shots were fired from the suspect vehicle. That's why if you take a look at this video, you'll see the officer approaching the car slowly with that tactical shield to smash out the window to make sure they could get everyone out. We're told that 5 total people were taken into custody. We saw a couple of them in handcuffs, a few of them being put into EMS vehicles. Now, we are not sure why this chase started, other than we know it started in Ellis County. They're here on scene, and that it reached high speed, snaking through many cities here in North Texas before coming to an end here on Camp Bowie in Fort Worth. And we are still awaiting an official briefing from police. There are lots of officers out here. They are taking a look at the scene. As I mentioned, both Ellis County and Fort Worth on the scene, so we're hoping to get that official briefing soon. But again, all the suspects in custody, and it looks like Fort Worth Police, Ellis County, they did all they could to bring this chase to an end. And as I send it back into Erica Lopez, Erica, it looks like some of the police vehicles are leaving. There are a few wreckers here on the scene as they try to get both sides of Camp Bowie back open.
Chris, thank you so much. We really appreciate your reporting this morning. Of course, this is where Chris Sadeghi just was. Brian Irvin closures on Camp Bowie. So really quickly, a couple ways to get around it if you need to head this way. Vickery Boulevard as well as Southwest Boulevard 183 are options for you. We do have a wreck this morning as you travel into Grand Prairie toward the Tarrant County line this morning, 30 westbound and MacArthur. Quickly want to show you that. Police just got on scene, but it's still in the middle of the interstate, which of course is very dangerous, so be careful if you need to head that way. The other big story this morning, foggy conditions in Lancaster. 35E and Pleasant Run, we're really seeing it roll in here. We can see it as well on the roadways over Mesquite, 635 and 80. Of course, Greg Fields is going to dive a little bit deeper into those foggy conditions. Greg.
Yeah, you mentioned Mesquite and Lancaster and DeSoto in those areas. You can see in Mesquite that you have visibility out there for you right now. It is under a half mile, and this is very patchy with the fog, and really this main patch will be just over the eastern portions of the Metroplex, heading out toward Mesquite, Lancaster, DeSoto, Rockwall at 4 miles. But as we get up to Wiley, you're down to a half mile right now, but that really does improve heading out to Louisville, DFW, over to Fort Worth, up to 10 miles here this morning. So in those areas that Erica was just talking about, that you just saw there, heading down I-35 as you get down into Ellis County, Waxahachie, you're down to a half mile. Hillsboro as well, under a mile with that visibility. Just keep that in mind here for you this morning. Certainly give yourself a little extra time. And you see even in Dallas, it has dropped now to under a half mile there. So we are looking at the low clouds, the fog that has rolled in. 54 degrees out there for you right now. Some upper 40s too as you get out to what Denton this morning, 51 heading over to Fort Worth. So the light jacket and sweater for the kids heading off to the bus stop. Once the fog lifts though, plenty of sunny skies, very warm temperatures out there. Coming home later today, plenty of sunshine, light north winds will be up around 81 or so later today. We'll have more coming up, and now Dia, back to you.
All right, Greg, thank you for that. Right now, regional changes are on the horizon in McKinney with work on a new passenger terminal reaching a big milestone today.
Yeah, and this could be a big deal for any traveler who finds it difficult to drive to DFW or Love Field.
Our transportation reporter Janelle Fort live for us at McKinney's airport this morning. And Janelle, what can you see so far?
Well, look, Dia and Matt, unfortunately, can't show you too much this morning. I'm standing in front of the old terminal, so this is the one that is still going to serve private and corporate jets. But the new terminal that is currently under construction, still off limits for now, which is why it's such a big deal that later on this morning, we are going to get a hard hat tour, give it a first glimpse of all that's going on. So again, very active construction site there. This is going to be the first time we're able to give you a real glimpse of the scale of what they're building here. Things like where you check in, where security will go, and how those future gates are going to be laid out. This is McKinney betting big on how fast this part of Collin County is growing, but it hasn't all been smooth sailing. Voters actually rejected earlier plans for a bigger expansion, and some neighbors are raising red flags about noise and more planes overhead. So what is moving forward now is a scaled down version. We're talking about 4 to 6 gates in that new terminal. McKinney says that this is going to be a reliever airport, so it's not going to be anything compared to Love Field or DFW Airport. The construction timeline here is moving fast, so the first commercial flights are expected to fly out this fall. And our Jobin Ponacker spoke with the CEO of one of the airlines that is coming in.
McKinney's newest partner will need an introduction.
It is Avelo like yellow or jello or hello. Hello.
And who better to give it than founder and CEO Andrew Levy? Avelo Airlines will put a main base at TKI, joining a steadily growing network of flights.
I expect we'll go west out of McKinney. We will also go east.
Avelo's niche is secondary airports in large metropolitan areas. Airline market researcher Henry Hartevel.
It's a no-frills carrier, and you pay for the extras.
It has a preferential lease on 3 of the 4 new gates.
Our schedule will take priority. Now we have to use them.
The airport may control the gates, but Avelo will get basically first dibs at using the gates.
Avelo flies 737-800s, which all the big carriers use. 3 or 4 planes will be based in McKinney. So will its crew.
And the airplanes all come home every night. The pilots, the flight attendants come home every night. The technicians are there to maintain the aircraft.
Avelo is adding 30 jobs for every plane, all told about 100 new employees.
The more demand there is and the better we can drive economics, the more growth there will be.
The routes haven't been decided yet. Here are the numbers. Avelo's average fare is $110. Every flight is nonstop. There are assigned seats, and it's about $40 for a checked bag. Avelo is also filling out its fleet with the new Embraer E2-195.
The E2 is going to be the quietest airplane out there, the quietest narrow body.
That may or may not be welcome words to the communities immediately surrounding the airport that have complained about noise pollution.
Avelo doesn't want to be a bad neighbor. I think they're going to be very, very pragmatic when it comes to adding flights.
The early expectation is 4 to 6 flights a week.
The amount of activity is going to be, I think, immaterial compared to what exists today.
TKI is the private and corporate airport that will soon turn commercial. And that runway isn't too far off in the distance. In McKinney, I'm Jobin Ponacker.
Developing this morning, Mexican officials are reassuring visitors that it is safe to travel following the intense cartel violence over the weekend after a major cartel leader was killed. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says there's no risk for visitors to this year's World Cup, which will be hosted in part by Mexico.
Yeah, that's still months away, but spring break is right around the corner.
And a lot of you may be worried about your upcoming travel plans to Mexico. Here in Texas, a lot of us go to Mexico for vacation quite often.
Yeah.
ABC's Matt Rivers is joining us now from Cancun with more on the security concerns and what potential travelers may need to know.
Hey, good morning, guys. The question on a lot of travelers' minds right now, no question about it, is it safe to come here to Mexico? And it's a fair question to be asking after what we saw play out earlier this week. It was on Sunday that the Mexican government captured and then ultimately ended up killing El Mencho, the head of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. And as a result, the cartel went off across the country, basically. All kinds of violence in multiple different places, mainly centered more on the western part of the country. But even there was some what they call narco blockades, cars being set on fire in the Cancun area. And so it's had a lot of tourists asking, is it safe to come to Mexico? And look, when I get asked that question as someone who used to live here, who used to work here consistently, I always say a couple things. On the one hand, it's right to ask the question. Cartel violence, organized crime violence is a huge deal. No question about that in this country, and it is something to pay attention to. That said, you got to follow what the statistics say. And what the statistics point to is that you are very unlikely to be the victim of a crime if you come to Mexico. Those are just the facts. Millions and millions and millions of people come here every year as tourists and leave with nothing worse than a hangover. So those are the facts, but the fears are very real, especially after what we saw play out across the country. The country has calmed down in the last couple of days. The State Department has lifted any restrictions that it had put into place about travel to Mexico. And so as you're making your own decisions on whether to come here or not, I think that's the information, guys, that you need.
All right, ABC's Matt Rivers, thank you. To your snapshot on this Thursday morning, sheriff's deputies in Florida spring into action when a brush fire gets a little too close to home. Here's the video for you. It's from the Clay County Sheriff's Office there, showing deputies going door to door using garden hoses, urgently warning the residents to get out. The evacuation order was later lifted after the fire, which started in a backyard, was finally brought under control. This morning, a mother and her 2-year-old daughter are seriously hurt after this home explosion. Look at the flames. This happened outside of Boston. Police, fire, and EMS all rushed to the scene. The blast sparked a fire that spread to homes on both sides as firefighters battled those flames in nearly 30 inches of snow. Investigators are now working to figure out what caused it, with a gas explosion among the possibilities there. New York City's mayor and police appear at odds over that massive snowball fight during Monday's historic winter storm. The New York City Police Department says it's looking for people who threw snowballs at officers, calling it assault. But Mayor Zohran Mamdani downplayed it as a situation that just got a little bit out of hand. Now, police say the investigation is still ongoing.
All right, time right now is 6:41 in the morning. Here's what's still ahead this Thursday. Coffee is on. The polls are open. The numbers that could shape Texas politics. You want to hear them ahead.
And we've got a health alert for women this morning. New research shows that heart disease rates are up, especially in younger women. What doctors say you can do right now to lower your risk.
And we have seen some of that patchy fog moving into North Texas here this morning, including parts of the Metroplex. So we'll take a closer look at that here when we come back with a complete look at your forecast. And from our downtown Dallas tower cam, you see the fog that has kind of invaded the tower cam there. And we are looking at the visibility down under a mile in some locations. And so more on that for you after the break.